you have a pier, a boat. The boat had 4 rooms, DJs in every room. There was literally like 20 DJs per party. The label really helped reinforce the parties and the artists. It was like this beautiful ecosystem. All his clothes are there, but he wasn't there. He swam to Jersey, and the SWAT teams came, the helicopters, the divers.
It was so random and cool and weird, and it felt really special.
And be appreciated in a place where you always have to prove yourself. New York, you have to prove yourself every time you step away.
Hey there, it's me, Roxy Cottontail. You might know me as a DJ, artist, designer, and New York City party promoter, or from my bunny logo. I'm putting all that on the table and writing about the years that transformed music and the New York City scene. I've interviewed 250 friends and colleagues I admire. I ask all and reveal all. Please join me and the Tales to rediscover the 90s and the Y2K magical landscape of music, art, technology, and streetwear. This is Roxy's Tales.
My name is Nickodemus, and I have a party called Turntables in the Hudson since '98, and been DJing since I'm like 12 years old.
Amazing.
Now in New York, born and bred, and came up in the whole New York scene.
My guest this week on Roxy's Tales is Nickodemus of Turntables on the Hudson. A true sonic explorer, Nickodemus has been blending global grooves and underground sounds long before it was a trend. We dive into his rich history from DJing intimate giant step parties to curating his own almost 30-year event series, Turntables on the Hudson. Also a record label, Turntables on the Hudson has defined what New York City looks and sounds like for decades. It is a profound honor to interview such an incredible curator. Without further ado, Nickodemus.
Thank you for being here and sharing some of your rich history. You said you started DJing at 12?
Yeah, it's crazy.
How does that begin?
I guess, like even when I was younger, just collecting records and, sneaking in a scratch here and there on your parents' equipment when they weren't looking. I don't know, like it was magic. And then it gave me a sense of belonging, and then it gave me a power. Like I had a power that nobody else had,
Yeah.
It was impressive. Like I could turn up at a party anywhere and just be like, wiggy, 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 and people would go nuts. And it was the sound that I heard on all my favorite songs that I was finally able to figure out what it was. That kind of like started me off in this path. And my brother bought an old car, and in the trunk, his friend was a DJ, and he left a turntable and a mixer in the trunk. He said, well, I know your brother, he loves music. And it was my first Gemini belt driven turntables with the Gemini mixer when I was like, I don't know, 13 or something.
Were you going out at this time in the city?
You want to know what? It's crazy, but I was.
Yeah.
My sister, thank God for her, she had the access. She was older, she was into the music, she was into dating guys. She had all these like cool friends who did like nice graffiti painted jackets, and they were in the hip hop and freestyle dance scenes. She used to sneak me into clubs when I was very young. And when we moved from Queens to Long Island, she found that scene really quick, and the scene was very robust in Long Island because there wasn't a lot to do. So kids were just making up things to do, and they were making up warehouse parties, and they were like teeny bopper clubs. And in those clubs, there was clubs called like Electric Avenue, Shalimar, and Les Jardins. Those were the ones that I remember. And anybody we met from back then, we kept going and going together, and we would catch each other in raves or at Caffeine, the club Caffeine.
Mm-hmm.
That was the most legit one that happened, in our time out in Long Island. And, the like Frankie Bones raves or the Chris Love, his raves, they would have several different stages. So they were able to incorporate many styles of music into one place. Those were kind of some of my first real gigs, was playing in like, these type of atmospheres. And then, then my sister went to FIT, again, brought me right into like the Red Zone and the Ritz and a party called Green Door, which was more like punk and funky. And there was so many parties back then that influenced me and gave me my kind of diversity that I still appreciate now and carry now with my record collection or my DJ sets or just having that open mind.
Yeah, I love like that you're influenced by not just like one scene, but kind of like everything that was happening from Long Island to the city. So you started playing in raves, like with Chris Love or with whom?
No, I was kind of throwing my own like warehouse parties, and we had all the various names for them, depending. And we mixed like house music with hip hop and reggae. Those are our three. And then occasionally like a rock band, like a kid in my high school, or we just I guess my mission was always to just uh like melt people's boundaries. Everyone had huge boundaries in music, even growing up. There were the punk kids, the new wave kids, the hip hop, the house, the reggae. So everybody had their zone, and we kind of like didn't go to each other's or didn't blend, or we would fight over who's playing the music at the parties. So like my mission was to really, again, thanks to my sister, she was able to rent out these places on our behalf, and then we would storm the place as like teenagers and have like proper sound systems. So I guess those were my real first DJ gigs.
Did you go to like Scotto's NASA party?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, did you do the Storm Rave as well?
I definitely played one of the storm raves. Yep.
Sick.
In like one of the back rooms, because I think they were like, if people were coming up in the scene, they knew about it real quick. It was mixtapes, or if you were on a flyer, you know, back then I think there was only a few DJs in each town. So like people knew of you right away. And it was like you were getting invited to play places, and the rave promoters were awesome because that wasn't my scene, like that music. But I loved the people. I loved that we were the freaks. Like it united us. It united us. And they always made a house room for us, or like a trip hop room or a hip hop room. There was always one room to cater to that. And it was a great mix of the city kids and the Long Island kids. It was like, and they took big risks to make this happen. I remember how much money was on the line for some of these things. And I remember people getting broke, busted,
Yeah.
losing a lot of money, but then making a lot of money. It was the Wild West.
And so, what were your first, I guess, professional gigs? And then how do you transition into producing your own events?
Yeah, good question. I mean, the first professional, like this is all underground stuff, like throwing my own parties and all that. My first professional gigs were my sister hooked me up one day to play.
I need to meet this woman.
Yes, she has stories. She hooked me up. She used to work the door at Red Zone in the Ritz. So I would get to be up there and like watching from the Red Zone had a little balcony. And I guess you could say my first gig was I used to do the paintings for the Red Zone's, like, I don't know, David Morales party. And I used to do all this like black light mushrooms and flowers. I was very inspired by the D-Light artwork.
Amazing.
So I would do that right after school on Friday, and the party would start. And, I would go up in the balcony and just be watching these DJs playing. And so, again, I was seeing like Kid Capri, like Busta Rhymes and Bismarcky in the booth. And I kind of knew exactly what I wanted to do. So like when the DJ didn't show up for the Ritz, I was put right up in there and able to do it. Like I felt pretty confident, of course, hands shaking. But I felt confident enough. Like I knew how these parties were meant to rock. And I feel like I had the history and knowledge from doing it myself in Long Island. So those are some of the first. And then Giant Step, like I made mixtapes a lot. And I gave a mixtape to Mark LaBelle, who was, he to this day is my hero, my man. I couldn't get into the Giant Step parties, but when I saw those flyers, I was like, that's where I need to be. This is the sound I've been like crafting all these years, all the hip hop and jazz and house and jazz. And here's a party that's actually doing it. And their graphics were cool. they had like guest artists who I worship. So I managed to go to one of their free outdoor parties in Washington Square Park, and I brought a mixtape, my phone number on it. And Mark LaBelle, like 2 days later, gave me a call, and he was like, "Yo, that was dope. You made that?" I'm like, "Yeah." He's like, "Come on in." I went to the Groove Academy office, and then they started me on my first residency with Giant Step. I was DJing at SOBs for like Gil Scott Heron and Chucho Latin Soul Brothers. I opened for D'Angelo and The Far Side. It was like I started to really become in the rotation. They trusted me, and I didn't care if I had school that day. I was skipping the damn class to get there. I had my first apartment on Avenue C and 9th Street, so I was
Yeah, I
able
was
to.
gonna say, how old were you when you started getting integrated into Giant Step?
18, 19, and then Organic Grooves, which was like a little more on the dubby mashup of musicians, world music. We were playing Fela Kuti music in like 95, and stuff that was inspired like by the Loft mixed with like, I don't know, real cosmic Baldelli sound of Italy and Europe, because the creators of that party, Sasha Signobigna, was he was really following in that path of cosmic music from Europe. So he really educated us, me and other friends like Buscello and other DJs that got to play there, on everything that was happening in Europe, like playing your techno record at 33 and it like actually working on the dance floor. It was like a molasses. We used to call it the molasses funk.
Wow.
And everyone was Zeb the Spy from Cairo playing guitar in a very like psychedelic manner. So that was a whole other sound. So I would get geeked. I would be so happy when one of them would call me like, "Hey, you gonna play this Friday?" I'd be like, "Yes."
So you do that for, I would guess, a while, because those parties went on into the 2000s.
Yeah.
But Turntables on the Hudson is like your baby.
Mm-hmm.
Tell me how Turntables on the Hudson starts and gets established.
When I was doing these Giant Step Organic Groove parties, I was also doing my own underground parties with like one or two spaces. They were on the Frying Pan Boat. They were at a speakeasy, which is now New Blue, on Avenue C. They were at parking garages and all over the city. We had drum and bass room and trip hop, and then we had the house and like tech house or whatever room. We always try to have two rooms. I felt like I didn't want to always rely on when I'm going to get a call to DJ, because I really loved, and I was building such a crowd that people were like, "Yo, where are you this week?" And I'm like, "Oh, I don't have a party, or I didn't get booked." And I was like, always just sitting there like, "Wow, man, maybe I should just start a weekly where it's not so there's not so many boundaries in music." Like Giant Step had a pretty, it was like jazz, hip hop, jazz house, jazz Latin mixed with tons of musicians, and Organic Groove was like world music and dub, and he had a pretty strict sound, and I loved it. It was that sound. Yeah. But we wanted to mash everything up, me, Nappy G, who was the percussionist at Giant Step, and Mariano, who was the percussionist at Organic Grooves. And it kind of started when Mariano was like, "I want to learn how to DJ. I love this." And he asked me to teach him. So I taught him. And he said, "You want to try to throw a little party?" And I was like, "Yeah, no rules. Like, let's just dance music. Like, I'm not getting stuck in no genres." And he found a big empty venue, like a platform on the Hudson River. And he said, "Come check this out." And this was when the Frying Pan was on the Hudson River, but they got closed down. So I was out of a space. I had no space to throw a party in the summer anymore. I saw this and I said, "Oh my God, there's no neighbors." It was in like the Chelsea piers were just starting to be built.
Yep.
And I say, man, let's try it out. And it was like a huge success right from the start. It was like people were like, finally, you know, number one, an outdoor party. Number two, all you guys together in one place and with the regularity of being every Friday. So that went off with such a bang. Every time we threw the party, we just we couldn't believe how many people were reaching out to us to say, hey, can we heard about your party, like can we come and play? It was like Kruder and Dorfmeister, or
Wow.
what was that awesome the Plant guys from Plant
Plant music, yeah, Plant Bar.
yeah,
Yeah.
they were one of our first collaborators, and like they brought in David Holmes, and like all types of cool people were coming in from their avenue. And then like we just started going like, wow, we definitely love that they get the idea, and they're bringing a sound to New York that not many people were booking them for. Like there's only a few people really booking like the artists in our record collection that we loved. So we were excited that they were coming to us, and we would make like an hour and a half, 2 hour slot for them. We got the Frying Pan back after a lot of Giuliani hiccups where they would come with their task force. We used
Yeah,
to call
what year did they start coming with the task force?
98, 99, 2000.
Yeah, because what year does Frying Pan, or sorry, Turntables on the Hudson begin? What year?
1998.
Okay.
And then we went back to the Frying Pan around 2000.
Okay.
When we were able to reopen. The task force closed them down pretty hard. Like there was an incident there, and that was it. They had enough of them. But we used to go to court. They would close us on a Friday because they knew that was the big party right before the doors started. So I had to have a hotline always ready to go. 560-5593.
Oh my gosh.
And the hotline, if they did that, we would always have like a little backup space somewhere so people can go. Because they would close us on a Friday. Court was on Monday. So the owner would go to court, clear up all the tickets or whatever they said was wrong. Like it was sometimes it was the most minute things. They were just a really terrible group, you know. And they killed a lot of nightlife. If anyone,
Yes, I talked to Mistress Formica who was doing Squeeze Box with Miss Guy at Don Hills on
oh,
Friday nights, and they dealt with the same thing.
yeah. I mean, there was a time, if for some of your listeners here or people tuning in, that you couldn't dance and you couldn't even stand up and move in a club. Like they put the terrible pressure on the club owner and the security to stop people from actually moving. Didn't make any sense, you know. And this happened in a
Really good.
outdoor venues. Like, what could possibly go wrong? Like, what could be the fire hazard in a place like that big with a huge egress? Like, it just didn't make any sense.
Yeah, I was gonna ask what was the capacity that you were bringing? Like how many people?
It was like anywhere from like 500 to like 2000, you know, through the night.
Yeah.
And sometimes our parties were like really long. They would go from like sunset to 4 in the morning. So you have a crazy turnover. You have a pier, a boat. The boat had 4 rooms, DJs in every room. There was literally like 20 DJs per party
Yeah,
playing.
did you have Tim Sweeney at some point?
Yeah, definitely. Like,
Yeah, I came for his set because he was dating Justine at the time that Justine and I lived together.
there you go.
Yeah. So I came for that. And I remember being like, what am I doing on this like rusty ship? And like it was so random and cool and weird and it felt really special.
Cool. I love hearing stories like that. Like it's unique. It's a place that you can't imagine.
I mean, you're still turntables on the Hudson. You're going on 30 years?
Yeah, we're like 28, 20, 28, 29 years or something. I don't know.
Yeah.
But yeah, we managed to take the party on the road a little bit. Like we did turntables on the Nile in Cairo for many years, and the Danube in whether it was Vienna or Budapest. A lot of places. Like we moved it around. The Caribbean is kind of our most common one that we do outside of the Hudson, and where we've done it in Tulum with the Mikasa Festival for 15 years. We did it in Cuba. We did it in Puerto Rico last month, and yeah. So I'm keeping it going. Have the record label. So we doing a bunch of vinyl.
Sick.
Yeah. So the record label has been great, along with the other label, Wonder Wheel Recordings. Um, Together, all that makes a lot of sense, and that's where I switched to producing. Back to your question, it's like we were trying out stuff that we were making at our parties, and there were no other parties to really try out these weird mixtures of like, organic meets electronic, Arabic meets Latin, and just tested them out at the parties. And we're like, we know it works, but
Yeah.
labels weren't really interested. They're like, So I said, you know what, I'll start my own label. And I talked to Jeannie Hopper, and I were really great friends. I want to say big up to Jeannie Hopper. She was the one who put one of my first mixes on the radio, on her Liquid Sound Lounge radio. I started getting like way more bookings, and people were like, who's this DJ? Everyone listened to Jeannie Hopper's show. It was like the independent music record label and DJ, um, beacon of light, and right in the middle of the FM dial, which is like unheard of. The label really helped reinforce the parties and the artists. It was like this beautiful ecosystem that had legs, and it was like a flyer to the world. Like our distribution was hitting Japan, and we got invited to play in Japan, or Austria many times, and all over the world really. And it was the music that also helped, not only just the party and the articles and in magazines, but and the music is the one that lasts the longest. I'm telling you.
Yeah.
I always tell everyone, make music, make songs, like do it. And now you have so many tools at your fingertips. It's one of the best pieces of art, investments.
Therapy.
And so I restarted the label, talk about therapy, during COVID, because I was like, nah, we ain't going out like that. All the artists were saying, I'm not going to make dance music. There's no parties. There's no dance. I'm like, make dance music. Think about how it's when the parties start again. We did this. And I restarted the label for that reason. And it helped people, helped me, gave me something to do.
So Turntables on the Hudson. I mean, this is a remarkable event, and like congratulations for making something and the music lasting for forever. It's amazing to know that it's gone global from the switch from like kind of like that analog to digital. I mean, I know you were playing on vinyl. What was that like? Did you switch to Serato? Were you doing CDJ? Walk me through the analog to digital.
Yeah, it was tough at first, because even like when it was switching over, the CD players were not very good. And especially when you're traveling, it just wasn't happening. So I mean, we held it down on vinyl as long as we could, and traveling with a lot of vinyl, I've done that my whole life. It was a lot of work. So I tried the CD thing for a while, and that was a good buffer when I couldn't bring my vinyl. And then when we had home gigs, we used vinyl. USBs, amazing. Oh my God, revolutionary. Really, really changed the game, for us. So much easier. You have so much range, and especially if you love all types of music. And when I drink like 2, 3 mezcals and go anywhere with the sound, and it's like it's great. You can have the folders ready to go where your mind floats. But I love more than anything playing on vinyl. It's so much more fun and tactile, and you know, it brings me back to like when I had that first wiggy wiggy at the party, and everybody was like, "Oh," because like when you play on vinyls, people coming now and like, "Oh shit, you're like legit. You've been doing this. You know what you're doing." And I'm like, "Yeah, let's go, man. Let's go. Let's dance. Let's
Yeah.
dance." So I still go back to vinyl as much as I can. I love it.
I remember the first time I saw the USB USBJ. But Afrojack played. I opened for him at Santos. I think it was 2010 for Dance Here Now with Benny Soto and Rob Fernandez. And
Right.
Afrojack comes in flip-flops, like straight off of from south of France, wherever he was. and pulls this USB out, plugged it in, and I was like, is anyone else watching this right now? Like, I was like, what is going on? It changed everything.
It's crazy, right?
Absolutely changed everything. During your like building your party, Turntables on the Hudson, were you promoting with flyers? Did you eventually get on like message boards?
100% flyers and word of mouth. We walked around the East Village and West Village. Giant Step had a street team, but I always took a stack of flyers. I brought them to my school. I brought them wherever I was going, any bar or any restaurant. I used to work at restaurants, and I did the bike delivery, so I used to be able to be like passing them out everywhere.
Wow.
You know, like we were all word of mouth for a while, and then the more I used the phone service, we put the phone number on all these flyers, the more people were checking in, and you could tell how many people were checking in. I was like, damn, this is becoming way bigger than our flyers even. So I would just update the whole, you know, say where we're at, puts a little background music. You remember the old answering machine style?
Yeah.
And people would go from that.
Were you the one that told me, I think you might have been, a crazy story about something that happened at Turntables on the Hudson?
Well, a lot of stuff happened. Like you all people disappearing. Like the one minute you see them, you turn around. Next minute you don't. Like my friend falling through a hole in the deck, and luckily landed in a box, a bunch of, you know, beer boxes.
What?
Yeah, like every party, I would tie a rope across the metal stage that landed on the metal floor of the hull of the ship. And one week I was DJing out of town, and I forgot to tell whoever was setting up the party to tie the rope there, because there was a gap in the railing. And I've seen it so many times that people are on, and then they think there's a railing and they fall off. A guy fell and cracked his head open. So it's like it always involved like people disappearing. There was a guy, one minute he was hanging out like on the pier with his friends. The next minute, all his clothes are there, but he wasn't there. He swam to Jersey, and the SWAT teams came, the helicopters, the divers. Mark Farina was DJing at that time, and they were looking for so long for this guy. We were like, "Oh my God, he died at our party! I can't believe this shit. There's no way he can get across there." And he made it. We found out the next day that he made it. He made it over the other side naked. A very nice taxi driver picked him up, took him back, and the legend goes.
Wow. Yeah, that was the story.
It was okay.
Yes. Yes. And I was like, what the hell? But the friend falling through the floor is pretty freaking crazy also. So yes, who were some of your special guests at Turntables on the Hudson?
We used to regularly bring Mr. Scruff. We loved him. We loved like really eclectic DJs, like DJs who can just go across the board and do as they feel. But also we loved DJs who played new sound, like a lot of music that was coming out of Europe, because I always felt like there wasn't a lot of representation for that in New York. And well, one of the big reasons it was hard for DJs to come over, number one. Number two, the import section was like double the price. The records were double the price. So Mark Ray, we did a whole like Grand Central, Mark Ray, Manchester on the Hudson, DB and Cruder from Cruder and Dorfmeister came and played. Truby Trio, Christian Palmer. There's just so like a lot of Norman J. We did a collaboration with Giant Step. We had, you know, Giles Peterson, Norman J. And they, you know, when they played, it brought like such an education to the crowds. I mean, we have the best DJs in the world in New York, but bringing in something completely different, like when Broken Beat was starting, nobody really heard it here. And to put it on a stage with 1,000 people who trusted our taste every week was cool. It was because like, you know, they're going to rock to it.
Yeah, where else were you going?
We had a 10-year residency at Cielo. Monthly. That was incredible, but also difficult. because, you know, CLO was in the meatpacking district and they weren't always this big, wide open, come dance with us type of venue. Like they had to balance that with bottle service, which was kind of like destroying New York at the time. I mean, I have the Night People book right here with Mark Ronson. I mean, that was a time that was very like for me. It was like there was an inner battle with like this really like bougie, uh, you know, Puff Daddy scene and bottle service scene that we had to all balance it at one point. It hurt a lot of our customers who used to come for us who had no rules out on the middle of a pier of the boat, but it also made them go, oh, wow, this is what real sound is like. This is crazy.
That's real freedom.
It kind of did a weird thing, you know, and it also introduced new people to our kind of crazy left field eclectic ways, you know?
Yeah. So you were talking about how nightlife has gone through in New York City, went through a bunch of transitions, you know, from being this like no laws, no like lawless place. I remember I moved to New York in 97, so I remember it was like the turning of the guard probably around then. And then, you know, 9/11 happens, which I think made things a lot more stricter overall, not just in nightlife. But then the whole leading up to the 2008 recession, and then that's like when bottle service is just like growing into this like monster, and we get a club row. I mean, I think that this is like the timeline that you're talking about, correct?
100%. Yep.
Yeah.
The roller coaster. And then I guess one of my biggest pet peeves was like the like kind of Live Nation and bigger entities, even if they were small and they had a couple of spaces, if you weren't on their roster or if you weren't in their like team, you got cut out of a lot of places that you used to play or that you used to be able to call up and be like, hey, I need a place next month. Yeah, no problem. Now the places are booked 6 months in advance. You have to have like hard ticket data. I'm like, hard ticket data. Our party was $10 at the door for like 20 years. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That was a tough transition for me. And it really made me pull away and start touring. And I'm kind of grateful I did because I didn't know how much I was appreciated outside of New York because I was so focused on this rat race of throwing parties and promoting and competition. And now on top of like the competition, we have corporate competition where they're gobbling up not only the venues but also the talent. Like people I couldn't book directly anymore. I had to go through this whole thing. And I was like, you know what, screw this. I'm gonna hit people have been asking me to come to Europe, Japan, South America. I'm out of here. And I'm glad I did because it really helped me take off on an international level, which then in turn helped me come back home and be appreciated in a place where you always have to prove yourself. New York, you have to prove yourself every time you step away. It's good, it keeps you fresh, but it gets tiring. That's the name of the game, you know? And this helped by playing out in around the world and having digital trace of your music, like streaming and things like that, like YouTube. And it really helped do what you're doing already in another way, you
Yeah.
know.
Globally.
But I would say the coolest thing about today is how beautiful the sound systems have gotten in smaller venues. In you can be eating dinner and have a good sound system with vinyl. You could be at a dope bar with good cocktails and you have a good sound system. Refuge, this amazing new place. Every place I go to now, I'm like, damn, they're paying attention so much more to sound than ever before. Like back in the day, you can count on one hand, you know, and most of them were so big, the venues, they were out of our reach, you know, of you
Yeah.
couldn't do a friendly party with 100, 200 people. Too much pressure. Now you can do that. And there's so many options. It's like amazing. It's beautiful.
That's such a beautiful take.
Yeah.
And it's such an important part of the experience, you know. If It's one of the top 3, I would say.
And if like, you know, socializing and quality sound, they really go together, because people go out to socialize and dance their ass off. And with good sound, you can actually socialize and the sound can still be good. Like that's that people are starting to discover. It doesn't have to be so loud where you can't hear each other and you have to have a separate smoking room. Like you can actually talk. Like Cielo was magic for that.
Yeah.
You could be talking and you can still be feeling the hell out of that music and dancing your ass off, you know?
Yeah. It's so important. And it's like, it feels like a hug when it's good.
Mm-hmm.
And you can still be with your people.
Yep.
Cool. Well, thank you so much, Nickodemus.
Hey, thanks for the time.
Yes.
And see you on the dance floor soon.
Okay. You know it.
Thanks for hopping by. That's it for this week. Don't forget to subscribe, like, share, comment, and stalk. Bounce, little kitty.